Hala wai anai molalei tala alapanoa ke kula o ku mano tuni hita no ho amau na lahi o mahaku I ka wai o lua lei. Lei ana nu uanui ke kamakahala I pauku I makahihi. I ho hihi no I au na uno ho I oe o ka ukule ana pa ano ia hei ke hao la helulu limai. Te aloha ai. E ia au ke kilohana I ke konana ka malia e hulian o kohala I maui nei e nā I ka makani helau awa o waipi o wai manu. Helu aku na puua peli ai o puuwa awa o puua na hulu o pili no me kalahiki ola I ke mokunuila o Hawaii. Ke kau nei o Hawaii I luna mehelu peala, ka lele o ni ke po o kai nā peleo kula, ka mahale hua aku ke leo kula. Nui tauala ai o I kua ka malama hei ke hao le helulu limai, te aloha ai. Hei ke Hawaii, he honi no, te aloha 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 ai. Aloha nui no ia kākou. Aloha nui no ia kākou. Bon dia. All right. Thank you. As is so par for the course with me, and so apropos to be looking out among island people. I was inspired by the island yesterday and the people of this place, and decided last night that my original remarks didn't rise to the level. And so I spent the evening reformatting, rethinking, taking advantage of the inspiration of the sand and the wind and the ocean that surrounds this place. Honorable ministers, excellencies, colleagues, friends, family, I'm incredibly honored to have been invited by CE Ronella and her team to participate this year with all of you as Hawaii prepares for our own tourism conference commencing on Monday next week. It takes a long time to get here from Hawaii. And it is amazing that as long as it takes, you arrive on the island and suddenly I feel home again. As island people, we have this way of looking at the world that brings us together immediately, formally and informally. And so it is, again, my incredible honor, incredible privilege to be with all of you this morning. I come to you not as an outsider with all the answers, but as an islander with my own story. Hawaii is my home. She is also my classroom. And in relation to my being here with you all today, she might be also a cautionary tale. My roots in tourism are generational. When I was a child, my mother was a Polynesian dancer, danced in the tourism industry from the age of 12, turned mid-level hotel executive. My father was an airliner, part of a group that founded the South Pacific Island Airways, which in the 70s and the 80s was an incredible inter-island airline that hubbed in American Samoa and was flying to Fiji, flying to Tonga, flying to French Polynesia, flying to the Cook Islands. Back in the 80s, they were already starting to do long-haul flights. And on a flight home from Amsterdam, strangely enough, found themselves in Russian airspace and had to be escorted out of Russian airspace by the Russian Air Force. It saw the demise of the airline. But it's a fascinating youth because when I was young, it was the thing to do, that is to work in the industry. It was where all the energy was. And yet when I was in the 5th grade, about 15 years ago, there were tour buses taking people from Waikiki all the way out to the middle of the North Shore, a place we call the Polynesian Cultural Center. And students were throwing rocks at these buses. We didn't want tourists in Hawaii anymore. And I wanted to be one of those kids throwing rocks at the buses. And so as a 5th grader, I wrote this essay. So proud I was using big words and good grammar. I wanted tourism out. I wanted tourists out with them. So proud, handed this essay to my mother. Mom, have a look at this essay. So she went into the room. I thought she would come out and be so proud that her son wrote a strong opinion piece. She came out of the room not so pleased. Her caution to me, be careful what you write and what you think before you know. Be cognizant of the people around you and what they do. Be appreciative of who puts food on your table, quote, unquote. It is a turning point for me because my mother worked at that time for a company called Iconic Catamarans. Proprietor Rudy Choi, Korean American, and his son Barry Choi. They were catamaran architects. Rudy and Barry Choi were at the very heart, at the very inception of the development and establishment of the Polynesian Voyaging Society. The Polynesian Voyaging Society saw fit to design a canoe that for us has become a beacon of traditional knowledge. That canoe, Hokulea, is responsible for reintroducing our people to the ways of Polynesian navigation from generations past. Well, Iconic Catamarans was a dinner sail and a moonlight sail and an after-prom sail and a Saturday afternoon snorkeling sail. And so many times I would go with Mom to work and sit next to captains, learn from the people dancing on the cruise, on the water 3, 5, 8 times a week. Well, the most compelling captain that I sat next to, his name was Kavika Kapahu Lehua. He was a man of very few words. He was a man of very few words because he hardly spoke any English. He was from the island of Ni'ihau, a manaleo, as we call them in Hawaiian. His first language was Olelo Hawaii, the Hawaiian language. He spoke very little English, but he knew how to get that catamaran up over the waves, out in front of Diamond Head, turn that catamaran around and come back and bring everyone back safely. So prolific was this gentleman, so profound was he, that in the maiden voyage of Hokulea from Hawaii down to Tahiti, without any Western apparatus, without any Western tools, he brought that canoe back on his own, said nothing about it. He was just a Hawaiian doing the things of Hawaiians, working in an industry that we are trying to reclaim for Hawaiians. For decades, Hawaii marketed an image: leis, beautiful sunsets, hula at twilight. The image is beautiful, but also dangerously romantic. The industry celebrated arrivals and spending, while residents increasingly endured housing crises, traffic, cultural dilution, appropriation, and misappropriation. We learned painfully that culture cannot be reduced to content. Culture is the operating system and must drive the design of the entire complex. And so here are several critical shifts that we're making in Hawaii, still imperfectly, but urgently. Act 128, June 2024, establishes a regenerative tourism framework for the state of Hawaii. For our purposes at the organization for which I am responsible, we know this about regeneration. That regeneration in relation to tourism is about changing people first. Whereas the inception of the word regenerative comes from farming, comes from agriculture, in tourism, we are about affecting the lives of people. And so we believe then that regenerative activity is derived through 5 derivations. Visitor, what people learn, what they do, and as a result of their experience, what they keep doing. Host-derived, resident well-being and paid cultural practice, putting community in the lead. Enterprise-derived, as the minister referred, this is about wages, about sourcing, about waste and emissions, how our products actually change. Governance-derived, looking at thresholds, enforcement, transparent data, the rule of care with the rule of law. And in our case, aina momona, the abundance of the land, the abundance of the destination, measured by the healing of the aina and the vai, the healing of the land and the water. This is the reef. This is biodiversity. This is language vitality. We're working to commence measuring this impact across 5 domains: cultural, ecological, social, economic, and narrative. The derivations are who generates value. The domains are what must grow. We put them together as a simple 5x5 grid for each derivation, name the action in each domain and the metric we aim to publish. That in itself then is a regenerative ecosystem where every actor knows their role, where value flows in all directions, and where progress is visible. It's not just promised. In many ways, Hawaii is in the same place as Aruba is. Or maybe I should say that Aruba is in the same place that Hawaii is. We have about 1 million residents in our community. We struggle with 10 to 12 million visitors annually. 2019 saw the height of visitation to Hawaii. 2020 saw us in COVID. 2021, that pent-up demand drove everyone back. And so in 2019, we already saw resident sentiment, well, for all intents and purposes, tanking as a result of quote-unquote over-tourism. 2020, our residents saw the replenishing of Waikiki Beach. Fish came back. Limu, seaweed came back. I'm reminded of one of our matriarchs who says, Aaron, or anyone, blank, if you want the forest to come back, you don't need to plant trees. You just leave it alone. It'll do its own work. And that's what the earth did. That's what our islands did. And so in 2021, when that pent-up demand drove visitation all the way back up, the residents made themselves absolutely clear. This cannot be right for an island of finite resources. And so this pivot toward what we call now regenerative tourism, so much so that the statute activates a regenerative tourism framework. Now we all know, I'm standing in front of colleagues, we all know that regenerative as a buzzword used to be sustainable, sustainable as a buzzword used to be responsible, and so we have this responsibility to operate and operationalize the words that we use. And so how are we operationalizing these words? One, we are centering indigenous knowledge. For us, values like malama, to care, kuleana, responsibility, pono, balance. These are not just slogans for us, they are planning principles. They guide what we call destination management action plans, or DMAPs, visitor education campaigns, and site management. We are doing our best to shift from volume to value. Let me acknowledge that this is a difficult thing to do when so much of our industry has been driven by volume for generations. And so we're working on shifting our measure of success, not just by arrivals alone, but by how those arrivals affect our geography. We're looking at yield, at visitor behavior, at how tourism contributes to community well-being. And the fact of the matter is that tourists, for their own sake, want to do good in the world. We want to help them understand how to do good in Hawaii. To do that, we reclaim cultural authorship. We want to tell our own stories. My job as CEO of the HVCB, the Hawaii Visitors and Convention Bureau, is not to be a storyteller, though I carry my own stories. As an organization, we are story carriers, responsible for elevating the people of our place, the people of our Hawaii, to tell their own stories about their experience in our home, and how their experience in our home, whether that be 5 years or 5 generations, helps to change the lives of people who come to experience our home. Now, practitioners, kupuna, our elders, cultural experts are at the table, deciding how culture is shared, how it is protected, how it generates income, how it generates value for future generations. We're still in the struggle. But these moves, indigenous frameworks, value-focused markets, cultural authorship, we are pivoting these to become our compass. Yesterday, owing to the Tourism Authority's welcoming of myself and my wife to the island, we had a small tour with Jonathan, and then we were taken over to the university to meet with Tyson and Suan and their team. And there was so much synergy that part of the redrafting of my remarks, I just have to think about how we start to do things together. And so, standing here now, as I see cousins across the ocean, I know that Aruba and Hawaii share the same rhythms: finite land, immense demand, climate pressure, and the cultural labor of keeping traditions alive. And so I found 4 opportunities for us to continue this work together. Aruba's high-value, low-impact strategy and Hawaii's focus on resident sentiment could be braided into a shared scorecard. Imagine, if you will, a Pacific Caribbean dashboard measuring people, planet, and prosperity. I would argue that high-value, low-impact is key and a potentially successful measure so far as that high value is high impact for local community. This is something we struggle with in Hawaii, part of our pivot. The second, language and identity. You elevate papiamento, we elevate olelo Hawaii. And what if both of us then insisted that language appeared in visitor touchpoints, not as translation, but as a part of imparting our worldview that helps to change behavior? I want to acknowledge here that although a different experience, the fact that we both have colonial histories is something really important for us to acknowledge, is something really important for us to stand in and take agency over. One of the challenges we have in Hawaii is that we resist our colonial history for resistance own sake. And so as a result of that, we've become angry for anger's own sake. I would argue to my own kin in Hawaii that becomes non-productive, it becomes counteractive, it becomes antithetic to where we stand in the history of the world. I cannot change the colonial history of the Hawaiian Islands, but I can embrace what immigration has done for our destination and say that who we are as island people in the 21st, in the 22nd, and in the 25th centuries speaks to the resilience of island people to find peace and negotiate that peace with each other on a daily basis, such that we come to celebrate color consciousness rather than feign color blindness. The most fun for me, synergy between Aruba and Hawaii, is to create practitioner exchange. We will send hula practitioners to Aruba and bring Aruban culture bearers to Hawaii, not as performances, but as residencies. Stewardship learning, protocol exchange, healing work between island people, an island in the Caribbean with an island in the Pacific. We will find each other, although it takes 20 hours to get here. The last example I'll give here is that Aruba exports happiness. Hawaii now exports malama, care. And so together then, we could test ways to tie those brand promises to visitor commitments, reef and ocean safe practices, community contributions, respect for our languages. These are not theoretical, abstract thoughts. These are operational today. In fact, right after this, we'll start talking about sending hula practitioners to Aruba. If I could, I might offer you some not-to-dos from Hawaii's own experience. We have made mistakes. We're quite a sophisticated tourism industry, as you can imagine, dealing with 10 million visitors on an annual basis. I might offer you these. Do your best not to commodify culture without cultural authorship. When rituals and chants are packaged without practitioners who carry them, value is destroyed, not created. If and when culture bearers say no, I urge you to listen. Because when they say yes, all the more value is imbued into that experience. And they own that experience on behalf of your destination, on behalf of your home. Thank you. I would urge you not to separate marketing from management. As I work for, right now, a destination marketing organization, that marketing must preach what is followed through on in the destination. We can create beautiful campaigns that attract millions of visitors annually, but if site protection is not in place, if enforcement does not follow, what we have created is a boom and bust. Tie every ad dollar to a management dollar to assure that your destination continues always to be first your home. I thank you for the applause. I have to note that Hawaii is doing the same struggle, right? So we are, it's one of those do as I say, not as I do kind of moments for us. The final thing I'll share is do your best not to ignore resident sentiment. What we are rigorously trying to do in Hawaii is to measure ADR and occupancy and resident sentiment in a way that is as meaningful to all stakeholders. Because if trust drops, we must pause, we must fix, and then we go to market again. Otherwise, we lose the very community that makes our destinations unique. I have a quick practical checklist before closing. If tomorrow morning you needed actionable steps, here are 5. 1, bring community to the design of the experience from soup to nuts. 2, we can do this together. Pilot a regenerative visitor contribution, a no pressure give back. 3, a practitioner exchange. We volunteer Aruba and Hawaii in 2026. Publish benefit flow reports showing where money from cultural product goes. And 5, rotate closures. This is something we are also working on in Hawaii. Let one sacred or fragile site rest in a moment each year. I will preach to the choir because islands are precious because they are finite. That finiteness is not our liability, it is our obligation. Tourism can serve to mortgage that future, or we can prepare the opportunities for tourism to regenerate it. And if we allow our culture to lead us, not as an accessory, but as the entire operating system, only then are we set to build industries that restore ecosystems, grow economies, and strengthen identities. Here is my invitation then. Let our islands of Hawaii and this island of Aruba be islands that model what dignity in tourism looks like. Let us be destinations that choose legacy always. In Hawaii, it is customary, I hope you don't mind, to close as we open culturally, in an effort to sort of figuratively sweat on the stage and leave our mana, our power here. I hope you don't mind that my wife, Dr. Makanani Salā, shares a hula with all of you this morning. This song was written in 1938, I believe, by a prolific composer named Lina Machado. Lina was on tour in San Francisco at the time. She was making music with Tiro Puente. She called home and was so enamored by the voice of her husband on the telephone that she wrote this song called Aloha No. You chuckled because you're island people. Aloha No. Aloha is at the very core of who we see ourselves as Hawaiians. If I share aloha with you, my expectation is that you share that aloha right back with me. Aloha is an opportunity for us to see the spirit, the wailua of each other in a particular moment, at a particular time, in a particular space. We share this aloha with all of you. Ho'ihi ko'u mana o ea I kou leo ma ke kele pona e ha'i ana I kou moe ole I ka po a ka hana nui a loko he lau vili vili nei aloha no aloha no maka I ka haka pono mai Ua I ke au He ini kou na'u Maku upoli mai oe E nane ai ka ua Aloha no, aloha no, aloha no. Mahalo nui, danki, aloha no.